Axios. Harris campaign's Google ads rewrite news headlines. Okay. So the Harris campaign is apparently taking credit for stuff that they didn't do or something. Let's see here what it says in this article. The Harris campaign has been editing news headlines and descriptions within Google search ads that make it appear as if The Guardian, Reuters, CBS News, and other major publishers are on her side, Axios has found. Oh, well, that's not okay. And, people are very easily, I guess, influenced by this sort of thing. Their favorite news publication is saying that Camel is this way or that way, then you're going to have people agreeing with that or disagreeing with that. So obviously they're going to probably only be saying things that agree with them since it is the Harris campaign. Now, before we go any farther, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Make sure that you're still subscribed because YouTube does unsubscribe people every single day. Let's get into this article. Find out why it is the left, in this case, the presidential nominee, can't stand on her own 2 feet. And yeah, she is woke. And if you don't believe me that she's woke, here, take a look at this.
And we have to stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke.
Now, you might be saying that, to be fair, that doesn't say that she's not saying she's woke. She's just saying to stay woke. Well, I don't think you're going to be going around saying that, especially on a stage, unless you are in agreement with the woke ideology. So let's see what this article has to say. Why it matters. It's a common practice in the commercial advertising world that doesn't violate Google's policies, but the ads mimic real news results from search closely enough that they have news outlets caught off guard. According to Google's Ad Transparency Center, the Trump campaign isn't running these types of ads, but this technique has been used by campaigns before. The ads say that they are sponsored, but it's not immediately clear that the text that accompanies real news links is written by the campaigns and not by the media publication itself. What they're saying: while we understand why an organization might wish to align itself with the Guardian's trusted brand, we need to ensure it is being used appropriately and with our permission. We'll be reaching out to Google for more information about this practice. So that's the Guardian speaking there. Spokespeople for brands such as CNN, USA Today, and NPR, whose links appeared in Harris for President ads, said they were unaware their brand was being featured this way. Okay, so if that's the case, is that legal or illegal? I don't know if that's something that needs to be addressed. Maybe, I'm not sure. Reality check. Google said the ads don't violate its rules. Okay, but platforms have in the past wrestled with whether this type of format can spread misinformation. Well, any type of format can spread misinformation. What are you talking about? How is this any different? I can write a book and claim it's factual, and all of it could be lies. I could make a movie and claim it's factual, and it could all be lies. Like, what was it? Fargo. It says in the beginning, based on a true story. It's my understanding that that's not true. Where were we? Facebook banned the ability for advertisers to edit text from instant article news links in their ads in 2017, citing its continuing efforts to stop the spread of misinformation and false news. Yeah, I'm going to trust what Facebook thinks is misinformation and false news. Okay. Google argues that because ads on search are prominently labeled as sponsored, they're easily distinguishable from search results. Okay. For years, a Google spokesperson said, "We've provided additional levels of transparency for election ads specifically." Have you? I don't think you have, but all right, let's just say you have. Between the lines, a source familiar with the Harris campaign's ads team said the campaign buys search ads with news links to give voters searching for information about Vice President Harris more context. Okay, that doesn't mean that it's true though. That context could be all lies. The campaign has complied with all of Google's rules, although the technical glitch in Google's ad library made it appear as though some ads lack the necessary disclosure Google requires when they ran. Election advertisers are required to complete an identity verification process, and we prominently display in-ad disclosures that clearly show people who paid for the ad. Okay, zoom in. Since August 3rd, nearly a dozen new companies have been used in these types of search ads from the Harris campaign, Axios found. Examples include The Independent UK, NPR, AP, The Guardian, USA Today, PBS, CNN, CBS News, Time, and others, including local outlets like North Dakota radio station W Day Radio. The ads include links to real articles from the news outlets, but the headlines and supporting text have been altered to read as though the article supports the Harris campaign's objectives. Okay? For example, an ad that ran alongside an article from the Canadian shows a headline that reads, VP Harris fights abortion bans. Harris defends repro freedom, and then includes supporting text underneath the headline that reads, VP Harris is a campaign for reproductive freedom and will stop Trump's abortion bans. Trump didn't ban abortions. We've talked about this. We'll talk about it again. That was the Supreme Court who said Roe v. Wade was not something that is constitutional, so they kicked it back to the states. Now, you might argue that the justices on the Supreme Court were put into place by Trump. That's the only thing you can say. An ad featuring a link to an NPR story reads, Harris will lower health costs, with supporting text that says Kamala Harris will lower the cost of high-quality, affordable health care. Okay? The big picture, the political ad world has always been murky, but a lack of regulation in the digital world has put the onus on tech firms to decide what's deceptive and what's fair. Ad-driven tech companies have to walk a fine line between transparency and efficiency. One of the reasons search ads are effective for advertisers is that they are embedded in line with actual search results in a very similar format. Google believes its sponsored disclosures are enough to keep voters from being misled, but media companies whose brands are being associated with political messages in unexpected ways may feel differently. The intrigue. The mainstream media industry is already fighting assertions of bias. These ads, even though they comply with Google's rules, could leave media outlets further vulnerable to charges of partnership. Yeah, well, we know that Google curates its views to be more woke. If you're using Google, don't. And I think you need to use Brave or Firefox, something like that, to get away from stuff that is going to be slanted in one direction in the culture war. I've noticed this with Google. It's not anything that they're hiding. I mean, they don't want you to know that, but it's really obvious that's what they're doing. So why would they really care if you're still going to use them? It's like they feel like they've cornered the market, even though I don't use Google directly. Some of these news organizations might not want to be positioned as promoting one campaign, and this implies that they have a bias towards that campaign politically. Yeah, that's kind of what it all comes down to. There's another article down here, Political Ads Become 2020 Flashpoint. That was an old article. It looks like from 2020. It says tech giants, TV networks, and even transit companies are all struggling to figure out how to manage political ads ahead of the 2020 election. While some firms choose to run lots of political and issue ads with a little oversight, others opt to ban them altogether. Okay, why it matters. Absent strict government regulation of political ads across all media, the decision over how to manage those ads is left to companies. And while most firms have faced this dilemma for years, the hyper-political environment leading up to 2020 is shining a stronger spotlight to their decisions. Now, the thing is the mainstream media is biased too. They have a bias towards the woke, right? We're all told that we got to be good little wokesters. And I mean, I have no interest in saying that white people are bad because they're white. I have no interest in saying that men are bad because they're men. I have no interest in saying that straight people are bad because they're straight. Those are the people who, in this country, in the United States, have been on top. Why? Well, because there are more white people in the country. Because if you break down by economics and by academics, Asians are doing better than white people. Okay? We have a free society, the cream is going to rise to the top, or whatever, however you want to say it. That's kind of how it works. I don't know what to tell you. It's not a race thing. It's just a majority thing. Yes, this country was founded by white people for white people because white people were on top. Not that other people, clearly, other people have the ability to get on top as well. I mean, look at Asian people, like I said, Jewish people. If you consider them white or not, it doesn't really matter. They're not coming from like the standard. They're not the norm, right? Jewish people are an oddity. There are only like 16 million Jewish people in the whole world. That is by far a minority. So they are an oddity. I'm not putting a moral judgment on that. That's just the reality that we live in. but they tend to do better than, you know, the typical people in the world. There's another article here that I'm not going to read. I'm just going to read what they have posted here. Google cracks down on deceptive ads ahead of election. Okay. What, does it have a date on it? It doesn't have a date on it. Maybe I'll check the date on this one here. Google is updating its ads policy to prohibit domestic advertisers that use spammy tactics to conceal their identities and to ban international advertisers that use ads to promote illegally hacked or obtained political material, like stolen campaign emails. Why it matters. Google alludes to the crackdowns in its existing ads policy, but the company is stating them more explicitly in an effort to rein in political and election misinformation ahead of the election. Okay, but then again, Google has its bias. So what is misinformation to Google probably is the truth, honestly. There's another one down here. It says women's groups fight disinformation campaigns against Harris. Women's groups are spending millions in battleground states to ward off gender-based smears against Kamala Harris. As misinformation campaigns and misogynistic memes proliferate. I'm sure. But see, the thing is when they say misogynistic, they mean like, oh, you said that women are weaker than men. You're a misogynist. No, that's just reality. I don't know what to tell you. Women do not have the physical strength that men have. Why this matters. They worry that sexist branding of Joe Biden's running mate by forces supporting President Trump could depress turnout by Black and Latina women who don't consistently vote but would likely support a Biden-Harris ticket if they did cast a ballot. So this is old too, from the Biden-Harris campaign, not from the Harris campaign. Well, that doesn't matter. If you're a savvy individual, you can look at things with a grain of salt and be like, yeah, that could be true, it could be false, I don't know. Maybe you do some research and find out whether it is or not. And even then, your research might be faulty because the internet can be easily misleading. It's very easy to make the internet misleading. But the thing is, with this article, this main article that I wanted to read here, is they have to change these things. They have to say, hey, look, all the good stuff is sponsored by us. That's why we're sponsoring these ads and changing them. Why is it that the woke cannot stand on their own 2 feet? And we have another article here from the Post Millennial. Breaking, Harris and Walz announced a joint interview on CNN. The vice president's first interview since taking over at the top of the ticket for her boss will be with her running mate on CNN. Why does she need Tim Walz there? And one might argue that, hey, this is a strong, independent black woman. She don't need no man, especially not a white man. I mean, Tim Walz is definitely too pale, too stale, and too male. I mean, geez, this guy right here, he's just like all the things, right? He's as the pale as it gets, he's as stale as it gets, and he is definitely male. I mean, you can see the pattern baldness here. So that means he has a lot of T, right? Because baldness is driven by testosterone. So the more T you have, the more you lose your hair. So yeah, he's definitely a man. He's a manly man too, apparently, because he's losing his hair. But whatever. I mean, just don't be woke. You know, just stop being woke. You don't have to be the least woke. You don't have to be the second least woke. Just don't be woke, okay? Anyway, that's all I got for this time. I will see you all in the next video. Have a good weekend.